Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Turn off the fake news and turn on Center Right Radio. Online now at centerright.live.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14,
41, 31, 13.
We took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the Search Engine and Digital Marketing Race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
You're listening to America's favorite political discussion on Center Right Radio.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Chi-Town Expat Show with your host, Ron Harders. And today we have a guest, Mr. Tim Horn, who is the first vice chair of LD23. He's was on the Trump Welcome Committee, and he drove in the Trump motorcade. And he's leading the opposition to NPV for ASRA, an NPV that is the National Popular Vote. Now, Tim is also the author of a book called Ruling the Elite. And it's quite, he was, from people who have read it before, he was saying these things that people are saying today a long time ago. So he has the wish that he wasn't right, but he was.
I was.
So here you are. Here's Tim Horn.
Well, thanks, Ron. I appreciate you having me here today. So Ron and I go way back. To those of you who know or worked with Ron Lutter's group, the 2012 Project, and before. I got to shut my phone off. I'm sure it's not my mom calling, but sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
So we got to know each other back then. We covered a lot of ground as Tea Party people. And as a lot of people probably realize today that one of the backbones of Donald Trump is the Tea Party.
Right.
I mean, it really, in my opinion, and you may disagree with this, Ron, and some of your listeners may too, but I would consider, as I have, that there is no Trump movement. Okay, that's not a Trump movement. What we see today is the fact that Donald Trump saw the Tea Party parade rolling down the street and jumped out in front of it. And thank God he did. And I mean that literally.
I have to agree with you.
So it's not a coincidence that Donald Trump, in his very first outing after he came down the escalator and announced he was going to run, that he came to Phoenix, Arizona, prime Tea Party territory. And who showed up that day? Were you there that day?
Yes, I was.
Like most Tea Partiers, we were all there, and there were thousands. I don't know how many people they turned away, because when I got in, it was still a complete circle around the convention center, and I was one of the latter people getting in. So, and it was just terrific. And many of us got together, a whole group of us, Jim O'Connor, Karen Johns, Linda Longenzel, a lot of people who might be even listening today, were also at that, all Tea Party people. We got together over at the Hyatt in Gainey Ranch for a drink afterwards. And upon leaving, there was somebody who stood up and said, "I got to go, but I just want to say today is a great day for conservatism. There will be a juggernaut that will form behind this man." That person that said that was me. Now, I hate to say I was right, because I was, but I, of course, like many, wanted Donald Trump to jump out with the Tea Party people years ago, and he just didn't. But it is a thrill. And putting that into perspective, I was thinking about this the other day, Ron. You know, we have, we remember Hillary running in the last election, and her whole campaign thing was, "I'm with her." Remember that? And it just shows the difference in the kind of people that are involved on that side versus our side. Because Donald Trump came out and said, essentially, "I'm with them."
Yeah, he said, "I'm with you, not with..."
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm with them. I'm not with you guys, looking at the
right.
elites as I typify them in my book. And he turned his back on the elites of which he was a part. And that's what really galls him, because he was in their club, and now he's in the club with the deplorables. That is, the ordinary American people. Unbelievable. What a godsend. I encourage everybody to pray about it every day and take advantage of this blessing that is the last election.
Well, the only thing I'm looking at is of course, the polls are always rigged, but certainly the Republicans, or not Republicans, but the average American has to stand up, go to vote at the polls, and anybody who votes for a Democrat these days has got to be, well, I think they ought to be shocked, but that's...
Well, I would say this. I'm a little bit more benign about it. Having been a Democrat once myself, as many of us were. You know, Ronald Reagan was, Dennis Miller, Dennis Prager, Michael Medved, all these people. I think Levin was too. Used to be on the left, and then they came right. And not recently. I mean, it's a long time ago. And for me, it was back in Ronald Reagan's era. I started listening to Ronald Reagan. Remember those radio shows? A lot of your listeners will remember it. He was on the radio constantly. I was down in Texas working on an architectural project down there. And I started making time to be back in my room working on something at the hotel so I could hear what his talk of the day was going to be. And it was wonderful. So one of those days, it just like a light came on over my head. If you had an emoji for that, I'd turn it on right now. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's not Ronald Reagan's, as I used to call him, that's stupid. It's me. It was me. And I started using my brain instead of emotions, reasoning instead of just feeling. And man, I turned on a dime, and I've never looked back. And I went from that, Ron, from being a leftist in SDS, Students for a Democratic Society, if you remember them.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in that at Ohio State in a very socialist environment when I was growing up and going to school there. I went from that to actually, in the Reagan era, I did the voiceovers for Ronald Reagan's second run for the RNC.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's Ronald Reagan, a great, president of the United States. I forget what the words were, but I had a script. They hooked me up at the White House to say those words because they needed it on an emergency basis. So they flew me from Columbus, called me the night before and said, get down to Nashville. We're going to get you in the studio tomorrow and hook you up at the White House because we need approval on this tomorrow. And they put me on. I did one take. They said, that's it. I said, well, let's do another one for safety. Did another one. They said, we're good. We got it. And that's it. That became the voiceover for his tape at the RNC. It showed, amber fields of grain, and then it was my voice that came out to talk about it and introduce Ronald Reagan. I'm so proud of that. It was like, wow.
Yeah, that was great, yeah.
But talk about a move from the left to the correct place was something. So I look at people that are voting as Democrats. They still have an opportunity to redeem themselves. They're only as bad as the way they voted last time. So redemption is within your grasp. You can actually vote correctly, that is, voting for America, and not for feelings, but for the country, the nation, the business of America. The main business of America is freedom.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
the job. Mm-hmm. So you got to vote for that, and it's all in the Constitution. If you read it, and they're everywhere, get a copy. I got a copy in my book. In the back of it, I have a lot of commentary on that will even allow you to explain the Constitution to your kids. It's really not that complicated a document. It changed the face of the world, of course, but it's something to behold. So I'm proud that I'm a constitutional conservative backing the Trump agenda, which is the agenda of the Tea Party people and should be the agenda of all Americans. Drop the party stuff.
Yeah,
this is about America.
Yeah, and the corruption in the parties in Washington and so on, and not just in Washington, everywhere where there's government, it seems there's corruption, and they're ripping off the American people from right and left, and it's a horrible thing.
Yeah, well, power corrupts, right? We've always known that since kids, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Mm-hmm. Not a new saying. So I agree with you, though. The powers right now, as I typify in my book, Ruling the Elite, is that we have elite people in each of the parties that are holding America back and holding America hostage, and have been doing so for the better part of 3 decades to one intensity or another. But now it's getting so polarized, they're starting to really come out for what they are. And on the one side, we have a group of constitutional conservatives. On the other side, we have socialists. And in between, we have the elites from both parties who are kind of the what's in it for me people, who have gotten power, fame, and fortune from being at the helm of our government. Which leads me to another thing. Why in the world do we have socialists at the helm in our government? There's no socialist government out there that would allow a capitalist to run for office or be in office or be appointed for it. So we need to think about that in the long term. What can we do to stop that? Because we're creating some of the problems. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. But I know, Ron, you invited me here to talk about the National Popular Vote. And as I'm working with ASRA, the Arizona Republican Assemblies, I want to talk about that today.
Okay, and now we're going to pay some bills.
Okay.
And then we'll be back in a few minutes.
Looking forward to it.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Turn off the fake news and turn on Center Right Radio. Online now at centerright.live.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14.
41, 31, 13.
We took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the search engine and digital marketing race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
You're listening to America's favorite political discussion on Center Right Radio.
Okay, we're back and with our guest Tim Horn. And Tim came here to talk about the national popular vote. And so I'm going to let him give us a synopsis on what it's all about and why we should be against it.
Yes, Ron, thank you. And that's exactly the operative word. We need to be against this thing. So let's explain what it is as if you've never even heard of it before. We'll start at the basics and go from there. And some of you have heard about it. And I think it will remind you of what you already know. And then it will sharpen you up with some additional information you probably don't know. And so the National Popular Vote is what the NPV stands for. And it's often used with the term compact. So let's get out of the way what that means right away. And then we'll talk about what National Popular Vote is. So a compact is allowed in the Constitution. It's an allowance by the Constitution for states to make agreements to work together. So they've got, of course, the Constitution describes the relationship between the federal government and the states, and also between the states, among the states. So in a compact, these agreements have normally been used for bridges that go over a river that adjoins two states, or say to develop policy of states that are on the same body of water, like a lake or something where different borders touch each other. So that's the normal way. So what the Democrats have done, and I'll put this in perspective in a moment, is they've set up an effort called the National Popular Vote Compact, also known mostly as the NPV, for National Popular Vote. So in that, what they're trying to do, and I'll put this in perspective and say, so the Democrats, as you know, were a party long before the Republican Party came about. And to refresh those who don't know, who do know, and those who don't, the Republican Party was started specifically as an anti-slavery party, the anti-slavery party, and managed to put the first presidential candidate up who was an anti-slavery president, and that was Abraham Lincoln. And of course, the rest is history. He won. Slavery ended after a long, protracted war, and many hundreds of thousands of people getting killed, and which was primarily, I would argue, the Union Army trying to keep the Union together versus the Democratic Army of the South, which was almost completely composed of Democrats, as the South was totally dominated by the Democrats. They not only dominated business, but they dominated black people in the South and weren't allowing any of the reforms that were necessary and certainly perpetuating slavery. So our party started much later and became wildly successul. And today, and I'll correct this because you'll hear lies about it all the time, today the president is a Republican. The Democratic Party is out of the executive branch, but also the House is controlled by a Republican majority, but the Senate is not. So you'll hear this all the time. You guys control all three. You got the Senate, the House, and the presidency, but you can't get something done. Well, that's because that's a lie. it's a misdirection to blame not getting things done on the Republicans. The reality is simple. While yes, they have a majority, but the majority doesn't matter in most cases in the Senate. What you need is 60 to control the Senate. So they want you to believe, and they say it all the time, and even people on Fox don't correct it, but it's a lie. It's a brainwashing mechanism to think, well, they're the do-nothing party. They control it all and can't get anything done. Shame on them. No. Who really controls what goes on in Washington right now are 10 senators who are Democrats. The 10 that won't vote for anything Republican no matter what. And it stops in the Senate. So that is the reality, people. It's not like the Republican Party isn't trying, and it's not like Trump isn't trying. Man, he's out there. I think he's achieved over 60% of what his campaign promises were. He's probably the first president in my lifetime to go over 10%. So he's out there and he's working on it all the time. It'd be much more if we didn't have the resistance, the blockage by the Democrats.
Well, it's not only Democrats. There's
establishment Republicans.
Establishment Republicans
yes.
that are against it too.
Yes, and apparently we already have our current Senator Flake, appropriately named, who's apparently, and I didn't hear this, maybe you did, Ron, he's announced that he is going to oppose whoever Trump puts up to become a Supreme Court justice.
Oh, yeah, I heard that, yeah.
It's just incredible.
Right. This is a guy who, I don't wish him any ill luck, but he should have something happen to him just like our other senator.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, you may not know this, but you might recall I had a group of people that were after me to run against Flake in his run for Senate, and they wanted to put me up against him. But the problem is I didn't have the money. I don't come from a wealthy family or anything, and I thought, man, how are you going to do that? He's McCain's pick. McCain's got the power and the money, and he's going to put whoever he chooses, he's going to make the next senator, and of course he did. And of course, it was primarily Tea Partiers that have unmade him because he knows he can't get the nomination now. So at any rate, that's the reality of it. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. So anyway, we do have establishment Republicans. And I had this thought about what do you think establishment Republicans are versus us deplorables we call ourselves the non-establishment Republicans?
Well, they're elitists for one thing. They're thieves for another, and they're only interested in their own self and power and money. Yeah. And as long as they get power and money, they're happy as they can be, and they'll vote any direction that gets them more power and money.
Yeah, they're the what's in it for me group, as opposed to what does the Constitution say about all this, and where do we want our country to be going for the ordinary people, not for people in Washington. So we'll come back to that elite thing. I want to touch on that more, but let's stay keeping in the realm. Let's get back to that national popular vote. So the Democrats have long balls and they've got short balls in the game of politics. Another a short ball example would be, trying to get rid of Bernie Sanders so they can get Hillary elected.
Right.
And they do reserve the right, just so we all realize that Republicans do not do this, but Democrats reserve the right to decide whoever a candidate's going to be that's going to run under the Democratic aegis, despite what any primary may show.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it is a rigged system, especially there, but they were never going to let Bernie Sanders in.
No.
And that made some people mad. But nonetheless, it's real. So what these elitists and the NPB and what they're trying to do, a long ball, the Equal Rights Amendment was another long ball by theirs, and that was an amendment to the Constitution of the United States which would have essentially ended the allowance of any person to be even called a man and a woman. It was essentially the elimination of sexual roles amendment. And it didn't pass. And it didn't pass in the time that was traditionally allotted. But since there's not a key thing in that, the Democrats are still trying to pass that because that's a long ball. If they in one fell swoop, despite all the other stuff of most people, I've said this, I used to say it on my own radio show, I've said it in my book, which is the oppressor that's been made by the left are straight white men. And now it's beaming over on white people in general If you're not from the left, then you're an oppressor of the people. And that of course, is retarded, and it suppresses free speech, and they're trying to directly do that. So, but anyway, that's the situation we've got. So they've got these long balls out there. The national popular vote is one of them, because the national popular vote intends to make a group of states agree to give their electoral votes to the person who wins the largest number of votes in a presidential election. So again, it's giving a group of electoral votes as a block to whoever the candidate is that wins the popular vote in an election.
Which just gives you a whole reason for voter fraud.
Yeah, voter fraud, which, as far as I can see in my lifetime, the Democrats have always embraced. And always, anyone that denies it even occurs when the entire world knows it is amazing. And even worse, every Mexican national has a cedula. That is their voter ID. And why do they have a voter ID there? Oh, it's because there was so much voter fraud. Who put the system together? Well, it was an American company in 1996. Polaroid did their whole system with pictures and the whole shot. Now they have that. But get this, but the left people in our country tell you, well, you can't possibly demand that all these poor people, whatever they are, get an ID. They just can't get that together. They already all have one that allows them to vote in Mexico. They were able to get that one, but they can't get the one here. No, so you say. So it's just crazy excuses. People who are completely don't have any education at all in other countries are able to get a voter ID. They're able to do it. It's amazing. Literally millions and millions of people are able to find their way with no education to get that voter ID because it means something to them, and they want to protect it.
Right.
And their government wants to protect democracy there. I can only assume that a party would want otherwise. They don't want to protect it. They don't want to protect and have the election.
Right.
Be fair, in this country, they don't. Anybody who would say stuff like it doesn't exist is just a liar. That's insane. Of course it exists.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But the national popular vote is meant to use a good name for a bad thing. Now, the reason why it's bad, NPV, so what they want to do is go around the Constitution. That's the bottom line. Because the vote for the president right now, people don't understand completely how the Electoral College works, so I'm going to try to explain it to you. And it works this way. So a national popular vote is arguing that we should have a popular vote for president. The Constitution of the United States specifically does not allow just a straight popular vote for election. It doesn't. It prohibits it in a sense. And look, all of our federal officials that are elected, the House, it uses one set of parameters. Every 2 years there's an election and you're done by districts, blah, blah, blah. The senators are different. It's 6 years and they're elected by the state. Now, you and I both know that was not original because it used to be a different way. That doesn't matter. It's the way it is now. And the president has a different way of being elected. And what that is, you have to understand out there, listeners, to elect the president of the United States, there are 51 individual popular votes, one in every of the 50 states or each of the 50 states, and also in the District of Columbia. Then those are aggregated together and weighed by population. And we'll get back to that, I guess, after the break.
Yeah, we will, and we're going to be paying some bills, so we'll be back shortly.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Turn off the fake news and turn on Center Right Radio. Online now at centerright.live.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14.
41, 31, 13. We
took a left on Carroll
Raccoon
Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
Realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the search engine and digital marketing race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
You're listening to America's favorite political discussion on Center Right Radio.
Okay, we're back, and here's Tim Horn again.
Thank you, Ron.
And we're going to be talking again about the NPV.
So again, you're thinking that stands for the National Popular Vote, but in a moment, as I was just sharing with Ron while we were on break, we're going to start realizing what it really means, certainly for us in Arizona, as well as the rest of the states. So this compact thing is, once again, it's an agreement between a group of states to give all of their electoral votes to the candidate in a presidential election that wins the most popular vote. So, by definition, that would mean that if it had been in place when Bush was running, he wouldn't have had 2 terms as president. He wouldn't have been elected. And if this had been in place in this last election, Hillary definitely would have won. Okay, so how does it work? So right now, it's a long ball by the Democrats. It's made up by now 12 states, 12 all Democratic states who have agreed together. Why? Because their votes together, once they hit 270 in that group, will determine who the president is. Now, here's what we know. It's dominated, this group of people who approve it, dominated by the largest states. New York, California. Also, they're quickly growing because of all the illegals. And think about this, if there's amnesty, all the votes that's going to give them. So it's going to increase over time and it'll lessen the number of states needed to have that electoral control over the presidential election. Now, you're thinking, well, surely something like that, which would bypass the Constitution. And let's talk about how it bypasses the Constitution. So the Constitution requires these individual votes, going back to just before the break, these individual votes, they're popular votes in the 50 states plus the Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. And it aggregates those by weight. So the process of weighting, this is what it's about, weighting for population, was meant to keep the large states from dominating the smaller states. That was part of the original part, because even when we only had a few states, 13, they were going, hey, we don't want these big states to control us. They were afraid of New York. All the people are there, and they didn't want to have their state controlled by them. So, or the federal government controlled by one state. And so that's why all this was written in. Well, of course, the big states want it back. They don't mention that, but this would give control to the largest states in this compact. It would, and they'd only the only states that would matter, the only states that would be really even addressed by the candidates for president would be the states in this compact. Anybody else wouldn't matter, because if somebody's going to win that, and whoever wins the National Popular Vote group would win the election. And of course, those proponents of the NPV tell people, oh, other states would be involved, but it's not true. Of course it wouldn't.
Of course not. Yeah.
If there's only going to be, say, 15 states that are going to choose the president, that's where you're going to go.
Yeah.
The other 35 aren't going to matter.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and oh, by the way, I'm sure, as I predicted to other people earlier, they're pushing to get Puerto Rico approved as a state as quickly as possible. Why? Because it would give them 2 more senators.
Yes. And
they have a minimum amount. I think it would give them 2 House of Representatives people too. I think that's the minimum. So there you go. And they want them now, and they're all going to vote for Democrats, and that's the way it is. So the Democrats are trying to get them in. So because every vote's going to count, and that's what we need. So what you need to know is, if the National Popular Vote passes, it would have to skirt what the Constitution says. That way, it wouldn't get rid of the Electoral College. It would just make it unimportant.
Okay.
It would change the nature of what the Electoral College is, because none of it would matter except in just these few states. Everything else would be pre-done.
Oh, yeah.
So if you weren't in the compact, your votes aren't going to count. If Arizona doesn't join this compact, and yet they get enough people to do it, our vote will never count again.
Yeah,
I'm sure as heck not going to vote in favor of that.
No.
So, and oh, by the way, there would never be anything but a Democrat as president again if this passes.
Yeah.
So for us, the takeaway is the National Popular Vote for you, listeners, forget about it meaning the National Popular Vote, NPV. The acronym really means NPV, no presidential vote. That's what you have to remember. No presidential vote. Your vote for president will never count again if this passes.
Oh, my God, that's awful.
And a Democrat would always be president. So those are the results. And the Democrats, of course, are pushing for it. That's why all these states are Democratic. It's a long ball. To them, it gives them the presidency. It's just like amnesty. They offer amnesty. Why? Because if they get amnesty, they'll have all these illegals they've been helping push into the United States for decades, so many we don't even know. And by the way, can I make offer a wager here today on your show?
Go ahead.
And here's my wager. I will personally give anybody out there $1 million in this bet. This is the bet. For me, this is the bet that there are more than 11 million people, that's what I think, that are illegals in the United States right now. But this is the number that's used by the elites and everybody else all the time. Oh, there are 11 million, 11 million, 11 million. I think there's more. And so I want to invite someone to put their money up where their mouth is. And I would wager $1 million that there are more than 11 million illegals in this country. And the wager is, for every one over 11 million, you owe me $5. For everyone over $1 million, you owe me $5. Other than that, you don't have to put up any money. So that's the wager. And I'll bet nobody takes it.
I bet you're right.
Because they know darn well there's more than 11 now.
I did hear one figure that was around 30 million, but
and it could be that many.
Yeah.
The point is, we want to make all these laws, and our government officials haven't even decided on what the official number should be. They just use 11 million, which we know absolutely is low. And we're being abused by the people in our government right now, the elites. They won't even tell us that. We can't find out what we have a right to know. We have unaccountable leaders from our country. Look what the last Democrat did that was running for president. Look what she did. She destroyed evidence that was under subpoena.
Yeah.
If you did any of that, we'd all be in jail. And yet she's going off scot-free. And what are they telling you today? What is the left telling you? Oh, that investigation is already done. That's over. No, Actually, that investigation was never really done, and it's not over.
Right.
But they're saying, oh, no, it is, because that's what they want you to think. Oh, no, it's just, we want you to think that doesn't matter. That's in the past. Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not in the past, and we need accountability. They're hitting these long balls like the NPV at us, like the Equal Rights Amendment, like this amnesty thing. That's a long ball. If they get amnesty for, let's just say there's a brand new 20 million illegals, all primed to vote for the Democrats, or most of them, because it was the Democrats that got them the amnesty that pushed for it. The Republicans would have to actually grant it, and they'll get no credit. They'll get destroyed. Our country will be destroyed. Yeah. Our culture. Would Mexico allow that? You think Mexico would allow?
Well, I don't know, but they're going to elect a communist for president. So.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not sure we didn't already have one.
Yeah.
So maybe we beat them to it.
We did, I think, yes.
And I know they love this birther thing, and I'm not a birther, but what I do know is that birth certificate wasn't real. No. I don't know where he was born. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I think he was, but why did they deliver a birth certificate that wasn't real? Yeah. And anyone that's looked at it, having any credibility at all, including Sheriff Joe and all that, you know, if you read that, and I talked to Corsi about that, and I mean, he studied a long time, and they went over, I mean, every which way you can. It came in layers. That's impossible. It wasn't layered back then. So, and yet there's no accountability. Even today, after he was president for 8 years, we're still not allowed to know the truth.
Right.
You can't get to it.
No.
So who is it that's not allowing us? And as we talked about before the show started, here we need all these emails right now. Well, the NSA has them. We know for a fact they record everything, every email, every voicemail, everything. And yet we can't get it because the FBI won't let us have it. Well, then let's get it out of the NSA. Oh, and give us a copy of all of Hillary's emails too that she destroyed. Oh no, it's just act like it's not there.
Well, the same group of people are in charge at the NSA as are in charge at the FBI and the CIA.
It's not supposed to be,
right?
But they're all together, and apparently they're all Democrats, as close as I can tell. And that's not good either. We need people that are not involved in party politics, and I think we need to change the rules. If you're involved at that level in what we call the deep state, it's only deep state because it's political. It shouldn't be allowed to be any political at all. You should have to give up your political nature while you're there. You cannot work in politics. You cannot take a side, and it's top secret. However you vote, you cannot be political. We can make that rule, and we don't. Why is that?
Oh, because they want to control everything.
That's right. And we can't have that. We absolutely, in my opinion, should purge the FBI right now, get rid of all the middle management and top management that are blocking the American people from knowing truth, take them out, make the rest of them underneath the U.S. Marshals, and then start trying these people for what they've done in trying to overthrow an elected government of the United States.
Absolutely.
And some of them may face jail, I hope a lot, and some may face execution.
That would be even better.
In most places. I mean, I saw a T-shirt the other day. It said, free the country, lock up Hillary, execute Comey.
There you go.
So now I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying there's a lot of anger over non-accountability. And these people running amok, and we thought Comey was smug. Oh my gosh, this Rosenstein, he's like, well, I'm a little godlike figure here. You know, we can't have that in America, man. We don't have kings. We don't worship our Republican side. We don't worship rulers. We worship God. You know, yes, whoever that may be for you, that's what we worship. We do not worship human beings and the state. And that, friends, is what socialism is all about.
Yes.
The socialists are about worshiping the state and the people who are the leaders in it. And that's what we're faced with now. So I would tell your readers and listeners, look, forget about this. Don't think of the Democrats as the Democratic Party anymore. They are the Socialist Party of the United States. If they will freely talk to you, and they have, I've talked to many and used to be in it, they will note that that's exactly what they are. They're the Socialist Party of the United States. And in my opinion, and I'm trying to move this towards legislation, in Arizona, I would like to see legislation passed that would prohibit anyone who is a known socialist from being appointed or holding any office of election in our state. It's got to be stopped.
That's a great idea.
We should not have, our major problems are coming from people who are batting for the other team. They don't like capitalism. They don't like your freedom. And they're patently part of the elites that want to destroy America as you've known it.
Right.
They don't like the Constitution. Why in the heck should we have them in our government? And I'm told that around 65 in the Democratic Party, 65 are known members of the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA.
Oh, my goodness. And
there's 65 members in Congress. What the heck are we doing?
I don't know.
That'd be like having a Christian church and inviting Muslims to come in and take board seats, or the reverse, that Muslims would never do that, and they shouldn't have to.
No.
So if we want to protect our country, it starts there. The other thing I'd recommend, and I hope you all take this on, is we need certified news. Certified news.
Absolutely. So
certified news being this, we've got to have news that if you're going to deliver it and call it news, it's got to be substantiated. So it's got to have fact behind it. Otherwise, you lose your ability to deliver the news. So we have organic food certified. We've got doctors, plumbers. They all have to be certified. And if they don't act within certain parameters, they're out. That's the way we need it for news. Certified news, folks. Think about it.
Okay, and it's time to pay some more bills. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
From Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger, from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Turn off the fake news and turn on Center Right Radio. Online now at centerright.live.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14.
41, 31, 13. We
took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the search engine and digital marketing race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
You're listening to America's favorite political discussion on Center Right Radio.
Hey, we're back, and here's Tim Horn. And this is the closing session for the day, so let's hear some final remarks.
Okay. How long do we have until this closes?
How long do we have? I'm not sure.
Looks like 8 or 9 minutes. All right, so we're good. All right, so the main thing that we need to remember today, and this is really the reason why I came, I like giving observations to fellow conservatives because we can spread so much by word of mouth, and we can shape things. I was telling Ron here over the break, we are able to get some legislation passed recently. I worked with Jay Lawrence and others, but Jay was the primary carrier, to put together some legislation which will, if you're disguising yourself at a demonstration or any other place and you commit a crime, now that penalty is going to be a lot more. And this originated because I was running a rally. I was the MC and a speaker at the Trump rally last year at the Capitol building when we in the march thing to spur on Trump supporters. And there were some people with masks on there, and 2 weeks later, even more. And so we now have legislation that says if you commit a crime and you have your identity hidden, the penalty will be much greater than what it would have been had you not hidden your identity. So that's the kind of thing we need to do. And the certified news that I just talked about a minute ago would be another thing we want to shoot for. And then beyond that, there's lots of things. In fact, I mentioned a lot of things in my book, Ruling the Elite, which is on Amazon. I got a whole plan for what we need to do and where to, once again, move the power from the parties to the people where it belongs. Right?
Absolutely. That's a book I haven't had the pleasure of reading yet, but it's going to be on the way this afternoon when I get through with the program here. So, in any case, we understand that pretty well about the national popular vote right now, and where it's leading to. Your presidential vote will not be of any consequence.
That's correct. And let's really hit that hard so everybody understands it. So the national popular vote is a bad thing for America. It tries to go around the specific mention of how the president is to be elected in a presidential election by neutering the Electoral College as a weighting factor of balancing big states against small ones. So what you need to know about it is the national popular vote's really a scam. It makes it so your presidential vote will never count again. And it's coming from the same people that told you could keep your doctor. There's going to be a $2,500 bonus that you're going to have and not spend. The IRS did not target opponents of their party. Well, we found out that was wrong. Hillary did nothing wrong. Well, that was a misstatement. It all comes from the Democratic Party. And this one, they're telling you that the national popular vote is good for you. Beware of what they're saying.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be the truth. What it is they're telling you by giving away your electoral vote, it will count more. Now, that is just about as stupid as the whole Russian probe opening with, well, the Russians wanted to help somebody from the right wing become president of the United States. Are you kidding me? Any of us older people, that's just laughable. We know exactly who they would rather have win, and it's not going to be somebody who would build the military up and take a right-wing stand against leftists in Russia. No.
Or give them all of the uranium from the United States.
Yeah, that they would want to support that group. Oh, wait a minute. That was the Democrats.
Yes, it was.
So it's just impossible. So what you need to know, remember, is NPV for us, us normal, ordinary Americans, for which we have such gratitude for this country, because there have never been ordinary people who have lived better, longer, safer lives than the ordinary people in America today. It has been fabulous for ordinary human beings, and we need to keep that Constitution intact, and it all works together. So remember that if the NPV is passed, it will give Arizona's electoral votes to California, New York, Connecticut, and others to cast along with however they vote, making all future presidents Democrats and making your vote for president never count again. Hence, NPV. For us in Arizona, it means no presidential vote. This fall, you're going to have the opportunity to vote no. Well, vote against it, because we don't know what the words are, but you'll want to vote against the national popular vote as they portray it. So that's what you got to do. The people that are backing this plan do not support the Constitution. They want to ignore it for their advantage, and they want you to give them your constitutional ability to cast your vote for president. That's what they're doing. Whatever they're saying otherwise is not true. And now you're going to ask me this. You're going to say, Tim, but surely the Supreme Court would go against this. Well, you know what? I got to say, I would think that too. But remember what we thought about Obamacare? We thought there's no way that's going to pass. You know, it's not a tax. But whatever, it got through, didn't it? So we can't wait until the last line of defense, which is the Supreme Court. We got to try to stop it now. And that's what we're trying to do. So myself, Alex Molesky, who ran for Senate against McCain in the last election in the primaries, and a guy named Bob Hawthorne, who is really a central part, like Jim O'Connor was, of stopping the adoption of this measure by our House and Senate in Arizona, because they went there first. There's been a lot of people that have worked against this, and we got to continue it because it's going to be in the ballot, and we're going to have to vote against it.
All righty. Well, we're about ready to pay some bills and wrap up the show for the week. But I want you to stay tuned to Chips and Salsa, and George Ortiz is going to be here.
The Chips and Salsa comes on in about 5 minutes with our fabulous Tim Horn. And also Ron Lutters has joined us, and he'll be in here. And both of them, it's going to be a fantastic hour.
It will be.
We're going to listen more to the capital vote question, and I guess they're going to 2 before.
Okay, bye-bye.
A message for the president. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News.
I don't understand why this administration won't support mothers who just want a better life for their children. We cannot allow them to keep hurting families, communities, and children.